Thank you, Sharon. That was transcendent. I love that song. The theme for 2025 is rising higher, growing deeper. The theme for December is shedding our skin. Today's topic, from crackly to supple. Dr. Ernest Holmes offers this wisdom. It seems as though behind evolution there is an irresistible pressure, compelling more, better, higher, and greater things. Ralph Waldo Emerson, according to Eric Butterworth, said, "You are an inlet and may become an outlet to all there is in God. All there is, not just good enough, but all there is. Let your allness be revealed. Release your inner beauty. Unleash your imprisoned splendor." Let's affirm together, I shed old crackly beliefs and unleash my supple inner splendor. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Reverend Eugene Holden. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Lisa. Good morning once again, family. So good to be here on this beautiful. You guys are having snow. I'm in Egypt, as you can tell, so it's kind of warm here. Yeah, good old technology, right? But let's just get right into this. So, as we have been hearing all year long, that the theme for this year is rising higher, growing deeper. The theme for this month is shedding our skin, and today's topic is from crackly to supple. However, indulge me. I'm going to play around with all of these because I can, right? So, a number of years ago, I created a class for practitioners because as we come out of, as practitioners come out of Prac 2, we hear about, there's Prac 3. Okay, what is that about? And so I created a class called Prac 3, What's Next? But then that what's next didn't really jive with me. So as I began to look at, okay, so what is it? Because I'd been a practitioner at that time for about ten years. And so the class became Prac 3, Diving Deeper, Flying Higher. Interesting, right? Diving deeper, flying higher. And I want to talk about that a little bit later because I want to also go to the theme of the month with this, which is shedding our skin. For me, it's just not telling or really getting into what it is for me, right? So what I want to offer is not so much shedding our skin, but transforming from within, right? And then today's topic, from crackly to supple, sounds like to me a commercial for lotion, right? So for me, the theme for today is, or the idea for today is from rigidity to grace, from rigidity to grace. Now, and the reason why I wanted to do from rigidity to grace is because we find ourselves sometimes standing rigid. Basically, we can stand so rigidly on what we've been taught. You know, we've been taught so many things that maybe not be true as we start to grow up. But because it has been put into our consciousness at such a young age, some of us sometimes are just, we stand so rigidly into that in that belief. So the rigidity, so as this the slide shows, right, when we stand so rigid in our beliefs, we can sometimes break. This is what I have experienced personally, is that standing so rigidly happened to break me down, but it happened in a different way. So you can go ahead and take that off now, Dan. Thank you. A couple of years ago, actually, it's going on 3 years, I had this experience where I was in the hospital for way too long. longer than what the doctors thought, much longer than I wanted it to be there. But after all of that was done, I started to dive into what the causes was, and it had to do with intestines and bladder. And so with the bladder, and being the spiritual seeker that I am, I wanted to find out what the mental, physical, emotional cause was be behind this, may be behind that experience. And so I went to this book called Your Body's Telling You Love Yourself by Lise Bordeaux, Lise. It's on the same kind of vibration as Carolyn Misses how your body's how to heal your body with all the spiritual components to whatever the disorder is. So at least Barbeau under the bladder, bladder disorders. So let me just read this. As all bodily functions are linked to the emotional body or the body of desires, bladder disorders are linked with the capacity to delay gratification. Check this out. If the disorder prevents or impedes urination, it indicates that you rigidly control your desires and are afraid to let them out. If the disorder prevents or impedes urination, it indicates that you rigidly control your desires and are afraid to let them out. So I had to look at that. What desires am I hanging on to? What am I rigidly hanging on to? Well, I have always had this desire to do what I'm doing now, right? I've always had this desire to teach and to speak and to serve others. And what I was realizing now, again, this happened up going on three years ago. It started actually 3 years ago exactly. So I had been doing this already for a number of years, for a long time, but there was always something that I was holding back, right? I was not fulfilling or not allowing that desire to come out. I was kind of in a way turning down my light or not really wanting it to shine because I was afraid. I was afraid of what people might think about me. I was afraid of what others might say. I was afraid that I would lose longtime friends. I was afraid of blah 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 blah. Thank you, Scott. So it was just absolutely time for me to let that go. So we are sometimes so rigid in not only sticking to our guns and what we've been taught, and I will not change, but let me ask you this question. What desires, what is wanting to be birthed through you? What gifts, talents, what what creative ideas are wanting to come forth, but you are rigidly hanging on to them because of whatever the fear is. So we get to start to look at that because here's the thing that I know, brothers and sisters, that we are here on purpose for a purpose. We are here to shine our light. We are here to be that gift. One of the things that I like to say is that God so loved the world that it recreated itself and then named itself you for so that it could express itself as you. And once we surrender, once we let go of being so rigid to hang on to the way that it used to be, and then also let go of the rigidity of wanting to hang on to our desires, once we let that go, then we start to, instead of shedding our skin, we start to transform from within. See, the deeper we diving deeper, flying higher, the deeper we dive into who we truly are. The deeper we dive into our spiritual practices of prayer and meditation and visioning, the deeper we go into serving others, the higher we get to fly. See, it's not so much about flying higher and growing deeper. See, we don't fly first. right? We have to start from the ground. We have to start from within, which is why I say diving deeper, the deeper we dive into who we truly are, oh man, the higher we get to fly. So once we start to transform from within, now we get to start to experience that grace. And so you say, Reverend Holden, how do I do that? How do I do that? Well, first of all, we recognize. I love the teachings of Science of Mind and Spirit. Dr. Holmes, when you start to read Dr. Holmes's work, not just in the textbook, but this thing called life, this creative mind, this thing called you. I have a quote from this thing called you that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. But once you start to read Dr. Holmes, you see that he was always coming from affirmative prayer. He was always coming from steps one and step two. Always. God is all there is, and we are one with God. Now, I understand that some of us may have a negative something, a trigger might be flipped or a button might be pushed when it comes to that word God. It's okay. I understand that. So you can take out God and put in love. It's still the same thing, right? I like to tell this story listening to Dr. Holmes, where he tells a story that a woman comes to him and says to him that my husband thinks that you would have more people coming to speak with you, even though the room was packed, that he would have more people coming to listen to you, I should say, if you did not use the word God. Dr. Holmes' reply to her was, tell him to use the word potato. We know what he means. So, in other words, it doesn't really matter what we call it. What matters is that we recognize that there is a power, there's a presence, there is a life that not only surrounds us, but it is that which beats our heart. So, the first thing we want to do to go from rigidity to grace is to recognize that there is something that beats our heart. There is something, that same intelligence that causes the wind to blow is the same intelligence that breathes our breath, right? So once we start to recognize that that same infinite intelligence that causes the sun to shine is the same intelligence that lights every cell in our body, once we begin to recognize that, now we have taken the first step. We start to let go of that rigidity. We start to surrender to that which is absolutely guiding our direction, G-O-D, guiding our direction, right? We start to let go into that once we start to recognize. He talks about that we are one with God. His quote that we always hear is that there is only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. Dr. Holmes said, that life is my life now. I like to say, I am that life. There is only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. I am that life now. So when you start to put that on, I am the perfect life of God. Now, this is where the rigidity comes back in, right? Check this out. We rigidly hang on, some of us, not all of us, we rigidly hang on to, oh no, I'm not one with God. Oh no, I can't be one with God. I can't be the perfect life of God. And sometimes in some religious teachings, you will hear people say, "Oh no, there was only one that was perfect. That can't be me." But that one that they talk about, Yeshua Messiah, didn't he say, "Be ye therefore perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect"? And we know that the kingdom or heaven is within. Excuse me. So there is something within us that is already perfect. So what we want to do is to let go of hanging on so rigidly to that false belief that we are not one with the infinite presence of God. So again, the first thing is to recognize that there is this power. That's first. And then the second one is to lay claim to it. I am, as Dr. Holmes would say, to identify as and with that presence that we have recognized. His whole life was about living affirmative prayer. In this teaching, we often hear about Christ consciousness, your Christ itself. And it wasn't until recently where I start to really look at, okay, what we don't really explain what that is, right? You got to step into your Christ consciousness. I would love to do that if somebody told me what that is. Well, how about this? Being your Christ itself is having the awareness that me, and that we are an aspect of the Creator materialized here on this planet Earth. That we are an aspect of the Creator revealing itself as us. That's the Christ that you are, an aspect of God, because that's who and what we are. Now, as we begin to really step into that, as we start to embody that, now we go from rigidity to grace. Let me just say something a little bit more, or let me have Dr. Holmes say what it is in terms of that Christ. Where did you go? Oh man, I'll have to look it up a little bit later. But anyway, so what we want to do is to really tap into who and what we truly are. You are the beloved in whom God is well pleased. And so here we are in December, and in December we talk about all the holidays, but I want to, talk about, we talk about Christmas, right? Where we celebrate the birth of the Christ. Now, historically speaking, Yeshua Messiah, Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus, the son of Joseph and Miriam, he wasn't born at this time. He was born in the spring, historically speaking, right? So, but what we're talking about at this time of the year, we are talking about allowing that Christ within us, that aspect of God within us, to be born, to come forth. So as the beginning of the talk, I asked, what is within you that's wanting to be birthed? What is it that is within you that is really knocking at the door of your heart, saying, God, come on, let us out. We are here to create. We talk about creating a world that works for all. Well, it starts with allowing that which is within us to come forth so that it can shine in through and as each and every one of us. So, to conclude what can never be concluded because we are eternal, I want to say this. Recognize first that there is something that is greater than us, and to recognize that it is expressing as us. See, that in itself are steps one and two. In fact, that quote by Dr. Holmes, there is only one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, I am that life now, is steps one and two. There is only one life, that's God, and I am one with it. So as we start to live that, not just talk about it. And it takes practice. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's an easy thing to do, because sometimes we want to rigidly hang on to what we may have been taught as we were growing up. Well, we want to let that go. If it doesn't work, if it's not in alignment with the truth of your being, one as the presence of God in action, then we want to let that go. We want to no longer rigidly hang on to that. And then we also want to let go of those desires that are within us to shine and to transform from within, from rigidity to grace. Be the presence of the living God that is within you. We are here. It's been said that you may be the only God anyone ever meets by just your smile, by just saying hello, by just reaching out a hand, or just laughing with someone. You may be the only presence of love that somebody may have experienced in that entire day. Do you know how powerful your simple smile is? You, my beloved friends, you, my beloved brothers and sisters, are here. And you're here on purpose. And that purpose is to shine the light of love everywhere you go, even when you don't feel like it. And that's when you don't feel like it, that's when you go within and say, I don't feel well, but I know that all is well because this too shall pass. So I want to close this in prayer. How grateful I am for this opportunity to speak this word, recognizing first and foremost that God is all there is. This love intelligence that governs the universe is at the very center of all of life, and having no circumference whatsoever, there isn't anything that exists outside of the presence of God, for truly, God is all there is. In the beginning, God. It is the source of the Alpha and the Omega. Being infinite, there is no beginning or end to it, but it is the source of what we call the beginning and the end, and it's all eternal. It's all an eternal functioning of the presence of God. And as I recognize this, I also recognize that it is right where I am. It is right where we are, right here, right now. God is, we are. And so it is in my awareness of our oneness in God that I speak this word for each and every one of us as we say yes to standing in the divinity of our being. We surrender everything and all the things that are not in alignment with our highest good. And then we surrender to that power, into that presence that is guiding our direction in every aspect of our being. And now we allow ourselves to feel and to live and to be the grace manifested here on this beautiful spiritual plane called earth. For this and for so much more than these eyes can see, than these ears can hear, and these words can ever possibly convey, I remain forever grateful and thankful. It is from this space of gratitude that I release this word as law into the law, because I know that as law, this word returns unto us completely fulfilled, for the word is the law unto itself, and all it knows is its own fulfillment. So, gracefully, gratefully, thankfully, and with grateful expectancy, we allow it to be. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. Peace and blessings, everyone.